This is Mirzha, and today I'll be breaking down the StarDance project I did for Maku. And it's a very simple one, it's very bare bones, but at the same time, it makes use of the variety the StarDance project has to offer. I'm assuming you guys have already went through the project and the sample pack yourself, but the aim for this video will be to dissect what is my thought process, how I mix my sounds, why I have chosen certain sounds, and what are the key things I try to make sure when I do make something. So yeah, and this is something I've been wanting to do for a while, so it feels like an honor, obviously, to work with the Armago team on this. And yeah, let's get right into it. So honestly, for me, it's often either like a synth sound or maybe like a vocal element which gets my creative juices going. I know for a lot of people it is very different. I don't usually start with drums. I don't know, it's just something I'm not used to, but I feel like down the line this is something I definitely can try to incorporate just to switch up my approach to making music. But often or not, I feel like it's always for me a vocal element which provides me the motivation to sort of complete something. And in this case it was this sample.
Keep it come for you, would you run, would you say? Keep it come for you, would you run, would you say? Keep it come for you, would you run, would you say? Keep it come for you, would you run, would you say?
The moment I heard that sample, I felt like I had to make something in your face, something which gets you and has so much energy. I'm just gonna play the raw take of the vocal as well, just to give you an idea what the processing does to it.
Keep it come for you, would you run, would you say? Keep it come for you, would you run, would you say? Keep it come for you, would you run, would you say? Keep it come for.
I think the only third-party plugin I'm using in this project is OTT, and I've also used another multi-band compressor, similar as an OTT, but obviously FL's own native plugin, sort of bring out the highs a bit more. And I think one of the most underrated plugins is Hardcore, which I think has been part of the image line library for quite some time. I can just play it again without the hardcore.
Keep it come for you, would you run, would you say? Keep it come for you, would you run, would you say? Keep it come for you, would you run, would you say? Keep it come for you, would you run, would you say?
So it's just simple distortion, honestly, but this is the sort of distortion you would sort of apply on a electronic guitar, but here it's on a vocal, which really gives it the Prodigy, the night punk sound. It's kind of what my aim was. I think it goes through distortion and noise gate, then some chorus and delay. So in case you don't have hardcore, I'm sure you can mimic the same effects. After that, it's just simple, some EQing, a gross beat, obviously a time stretch tool, which is very famous. I think I'm using this right before the drop. Like that stutter effect right here, and honestly it has way more things to offer rather than just time stretching. It can help you with volume, fade ins and fade outs. It's very simple to use, and I think it's been part of the FL ethos for quite some time as well. The best part about using the Armaku sounds is that it's not just the vocal loops which would give you inspiration. I think for me it's also break loops like these. As you can see, I pitched it up using a key detector. I sort of figured out what key I want the track to be in, a similar tone going throughout, so that the vocal and loops, the drum loop, doesn't clash with each other.
Keep it come for you, would you run, would you say? Keep it come for you, would you run, would you say? Keep it come for you.
I'm using a clap sample to sort of have more energy.
Would you say? Would you say? Would you say? Would you say? Would you say?
Small little instances of repeating the samples, creating that sort of like excitement. Small little ear candy here and there can really break you out of that conventional groove, which is always nice. Now let's talk about drop one. It's very simple. I don't think I'm doing a lot. It's just a bass loop with some drums. I'll just play the drums. Yeah, it's a very simple, groovy loop I made out of the hi-hats, I think this is the full drum loop I took and pieced it together. I think a very fun technique is to take drum loops and then try to cut them off so that it actually helps you write drums better, and you're not just fully using drum loops, you're also making sure it follows the syncopation of your other elements. Especially for me, it's the bass here, right? In this one, I don't think there's a lot of swing. It's just very straightforward. That's the intention with this. I think the swing is only there with the bass, and it's not even that much. It's, you know, some of these bass hits are not on the grid, which is nice, and some of the hi-hats, very minute swing, not something which is too shuffly. Let's break down the processing of the bass loop. But with the processing, it really takes into something else. Just to break it down, what I'm doing here exactly is I'm sending a duplicate signal as a send, and I'm splitting that into two. So I have a mono signal. I wouldn't fully say this is mono, but something in the middle already. And this one, I'm spreading it so it has more width to it. And as you can see, with the difference here is so that extra width on your bass really helps, and especially when you're able to sort of separate the frequencies beforehand. Although you don't really need it with this plugin, but I just like to do it just to keep things tidy. Spreader is another underrated plugin I use from the. I think it's a fairly new addition to the FL library, but it's very intuitive. Gets the job done. I don't think you need any other stereo heightener in order to get stuff done, because it also allows you the opportunity to bypass certain frequencies, make them mono from just by a click of a button. It's very simple, and it also has an imager for you to see what's actually happening, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty much why the bass also sounds wide and at the same time has some punch in the middle. The way I sidechain is also very simple. Recently I've started using ring modulation for sidechaining, but I also, volume automation doesn't go out of fashion anyways. It's simple, it's very efficient, and gets the job done. And just small little things here to sort of build more excitement is this one of these reverb swells. I have it on the bass line, and basically this acts like a reverse FX. It sort of fills up the space the bass has. For me, this made sense in this section, so I'm as you can see, the settings are pretty simple. I'm just automating the wet signal, so before that it's nothing, no reverb, just simple stuff, and you can obviously experiment, see what's up. Yeah, so stuff like this can really add excitement to your mix and make your groove even more glued, I feel. Yeah, so this Hoover is honestly so simple. I mean, I've just used a sample and I've just put an EQ on it. It just gives you that extra bit of energy sometimes you crave when you're making something. And especially in this style, in this the aesthetic what Armaku was trying to build out of StarDance, it really makes so much sense to have something like this in the track. And yeah, no, it just gives you that extra bit of energy. My favorite part is actually this whole section. I see this pattern quite often in most of my favorite artists. Like, just to name you, I think Over Mono does this a lot, where they would have a part A of the track just play elements like drums and bass grooves, and then maybe towards the middle of the track they would introduce this chord or maybe a melodic layer which sort of complements and sort of wraps the whole track around, and it creates a moment in the track. Essentially, as you can see, this is, I think, the biggest section of the track, where there's a lot of elements going, coming, filtering out, filtering in, and sort of creating this sort of grandeur type of sound. So using stuff which you already have done in the part A and then sort of let them have their own moment really gets the track into a different territory altogether. In this scenario, I think it's the hover which keeps on going. So it doesn't really tell you the track has changed, but instead it just hints that there's another element in the track which is now coming.
Safe to become for you.
This gives it that sort of euphoric moment, and this is why also, like, I think this section pays homage to like the Euro sound. That's what I sort of thought. I think that's something I also grew up with, like listening to a lot of Euro trance music. So I used to love moments like these in tracks where the chords and super saws would come into place, and this whole, it's a very hyper section almost. So that's what my idea was. I'll just break down what I'm using in terms of chords. As you can already see, I'm using instances of Sytrus. Now, Sytrus is, again, hands down a very powerful synth, even till this day. I think obviously its UI can feel very janky in comparison to a lot of the modern VSTs we have today, but in terms of what it can do is still very, very ahead of its time. And the reason I also like using sometimes some of the FL native plugins is to utilize the MPE qualities. I don't know if this is available. I am not sure if I can do this with third-party plugins. Most of them I haven't been able to, so it has only seemed to work with FL. So this trick, very simple. As you can see, the notes are in different colors. How you can do this is just simply highlighting, selecting the color of your choice. Let's say I choose this, and then I press Option C on Mac. I believe it'll be Alt C for Windows. The reason I'm actually coloring these is to give them certain notes very specific information. I'm trying to slide these notes individually. Now what I mean by that is, let's say if these were all the same color, let's just make them for the sake of it. And so now the problem is that the F note will either slide up to G or G3 or D5. It doesn't know where to go, so it sounds very janky that way. I mean, it doesn't sound bad, but it's quite not where we want this to be. I don't know if you would call it as MPE, because obviously that's a whole different thing. It's a whole terminology for making expressive music through MIDI, but this is a part of it. I'm trying to individually slide these, and by coloring them, I'm just individually telling them to follow the color rather than follow these other two markers. I hope that makes sense, but very simple, I feel. But at the same time, it sounds so cool, and I'm sure you can do so many cool things with it anyways. So let's break down the second drop. This goes from being a very straight in your face sort of house track into something else, and I've tried using a lot of the variety. The best thing about the whole pack is there's just so much to choose from, and that's one of the reasons I took my time with this one. One of the challenges was also to do this with native plugins, so I really don't use a lot of these plugins, but it was always good to revisit them just to understand that this can be done with any sort of tool you have, as long as you know the tool. Let's just dive right into the second drop. As you can see, I'm adding like another top kick to sort of give more like transient presence to the kick, because this falls a little short when I try to pair this up with the bass and the loop. Not a lot of things to dissect here, especially I obviously would have a better way to write this, but I think sometimes I like seeing the waveforms just to get an idea where the sound starts and stops. And in this segment, I feel I, instead of doing this on the pattern, I just dropped in samples and worked in audio. There's a lot of benefits when you work with audio, and obviously very simple, I wouldn't say cons, but just restrictions, right? Because when you do turn everything into audio, you're committing to the sound, you don't want to change it, and you can see how it looks like, the waveform. So visually you can sort of make sense of what the sound can also, like, where it can change, where it can stop, so that the other sounds have space to fill in. And again, very simple. I think the groove itself was sort of inspired by a lot of the, I don't know I don't know exactly the genre, but it's like, you could call it breakbeat. One thing which often goes sometimes missing for a lot of people is the tuning of the drums, and sometimes you should just tune it by ear as well. I feel like once you get very good at it, you don't always have to put the loop through a key detector and trying to figure out its key. You just sometimes have an understanding. Some of the drum sounds can be atonal, but some of these can be tonal, and you want them to sit right in the key of your track so that it sort of becomes a subconscious glue to the track. In this scenario, like, it was very important to know there's a phrasing here, there's something here, and I can't just not think about the key of the loop. And that's why when I introduce melodies, chords, pads over this, it still feels cohesive. I don't have to change around a lot of things. So yeah, this is what I did from the pack. It's again a very, very extensive pack, covers a lot of variety in terms of so many styles, and this is what I came up with. This feels like a very good sweet spot between what I do, what kind of music I make, if you are affiliated with my work, and also what Armaku has to offer through this edition. So thanks for joining, guys. I hope you learned a lot from this project file, and yeah, please hit me up if you have more questions. My Instagram handle is at Mirzha Music. So yeah, take care and have a lovely day.